What's up, y'all? My name is Deshaun Marvell. Welcome to this channel if you're new. Welcome back if you have been here. Today, we're continuing to talk about the undermining of Black American slavery. Because again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe that the most undermined, I'm pretty sure you already know the routine by now, and disrespected tragedy to happen in America is the enslavement of Black Americans. And this tragedy is being more misconstrued by the day when it comes to debates, talks, everyday conversations. And today we're going to talk about another part that is undermined about slavery, being the fact that we built America, but somehow, some way, we're not the standard of what it means to be an American. And in this video, I'll be focusing a lot on the fact that we're not the standard of what it means to be an American globally or in America, and the fact that that is simply a joke. When we really talk about the concept of what it means to be an American and American values, we fit it more than everybody, and we should be the representation and we should be the standard. So I'm just going to go down a list of lots of reasons and examples of why us not being viewed as the standard is just wrong and downright evil. So let's just get into it. Reason number one why it's dumb that we are not viewed as Americans is the fact that we have been here before the United States of America even was a thing. And we have been here for literally everything. America wasn't a thing until after slavery was like a stamp system in 1619. So literally, we were here before the US was a thing. That should show you right here that we have been here before the US is a thing, and the fact that we're not viewed as American is stupid, but I'm going to keep going. We have been here longer than the coins and dollar bills that we use every day have even existed. We have been here in the US before the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and every single amendment that exists. We have been here for every single war. Even the first war, being the Revolutionary War, we were here before that war. We were here before this country was even called the United States, because before it was called the United States, it was the 13 colonies, and it wasn't the country that it is now with the government and all the 50 states and all that stuff. Like, we've been here before that was even a thing. We were here before we had presidents. We were still in America when this country didn't even have the first president yet. Actually, we were here before George Washington was even born. All of this puts into perspective how long we have been here. But notice, and I'm going to say this a lot, notice how we're still not viewed as Americans and are never ever the standard when it comes to what it means to be an American. Reason number two is the fact that we are actually native to the United States of America. Notice when you look up anything about America pre 1775, before its inception, all you see is white people, and then before them, you see the Native Americans. And I say Native Americans in quotations because lots of you probably don't know that lots of the natives in America were black. I know I'm going to lose a lot of y'all here, and I don't give a fuck, but let me explain. If you go out as a black person and say that you are indigenous or you are native to America, you will get shut down quick. And it will be framed as you being crazy, a conspiracy theorist, pseudoscience, you're crazy, you're like mentally ill, you're delusional, you have an identity crisis, and probably you hate Africa. When you can literally look up right now the history of $5 Indians and the Dawes Rolls, which I talked about many times before, which proves that there were black natives in these tribes pre 1619, pre-slavery and pre-America period, because America was a thing in 1775. And this was because of the $5 Indians, aka white people who paid $5 to get fake native papers to say that they were native to be on the Dawes Rolls. This is how we get today's viewing of natives being these like yellow, Hispanic, like kind of Asian looking people. They don't look like black people at all. Every time you look up Native American, you do not see people that look like black people and have black phenotypes and black facial features and darker skin. So then in 2026, when a Mexican or a Hispanic or a Latino period claims that they're native, nobody says anything. Nobody checks their DNA test. Nobody checks their credentials. Nobody questions them. It is instantly seen as the truth with zero pushback, no, questioning, no credentials, nothing. But if I say as a black person that I have native ancestry in America, and not even just, being the first people here, which that's a whole different conversation, but just the fact that we were here pre 1619, you will always be told that you need to take a DNA test. This also happens even when people criticize the system of white supremacy, right? And they try to criticize white people not being the true Americans. And they always say something, it doesn't have to be literal, but it's always in the realm of this. This isn't y'all country because y'all took it from Native Americans. Y'all took it from the indigenous people. And people who say this are 100% talking about the yellow, the red looking natives. They're not talking about the black natives 100% of the time. Anyone who says this isn't y'all country, y'all took it from the natives, they're not talking about black natives. And that's because they believe that black people just stayed in Africa and they just only existed on ships in slavery, which I'm not denying. Clearly, the slave trade is a thing. That's not what I'm saying. But the fact that the red, almost Hispanic, Asian looking people are the only standard of Native Americans is bullshit. And you'd only have pushback when I say this because you, like everyone else, is indoctrinated and has a colonized mind. Because everyone is under this lie that nobody has ships, boats, compasses, maps, but white people. White people were the first people to have that stuff. If you let history and world history, the fake whitewash version, tell you, that's what it always gives out. People really believe that black people, as a race, globally, were and are primitive, come from dirty mud huts, dirty shoes, no shoes, walking around with books on your head, eating roaches and animals. Because we were too busy staying in dirty mud huts. We didn't explore. We just were so animalistic that we couldn't think straight because our IQs and eugenics and all that dumb shit and Darwinism, um, you know, makes it seem like, oh, the sophisticated and superior Europeans did all that first. And we caught on after them because their IQs are so higher and they're so great because they're white. Lies. And this is because white people, aka the people who are in control of the education system, have spread this narrative, and then everyone's anti blackness followed after it. Because we're all taught that white people are God, the symbol of purity, and the standard of beauty. And then generation after generation, we then get here where everything is supposedly just originated from white people. And if not white people, it doesn't literally have to be them, but it can be as close to them as possible, aka the red looking Native Americans who don't look black at all. And the fact that I will get 100% questioned, not even on us being here, pre-slavery 1619, that's a whole different conversation. But even saying that we are native to the United States of America, even saying that we were here before 1775, the fact that that will be met with pushback is fucking ridiculous. Because literally, this country started in 1775. When did slavery start? Or when was it really stamped? 1619, because it really began in the 1500s. So that literally means we are native to the United States of America. We were here before it existed. Now, again, slavery really started in the 1500s, and we were here before that anyway. But using the clear example of 1619, when it was a stamp system, that would literally mean we are native to the United States. I had to say it again because lots of people act fucking stupid when you talk about this. And if you want to on your own, you could look up the Blackfoot tribes, the Yamasee, and you will see that these people were clearly black people. These were black tribes, had people who had black skin, black features, meaning before we came on ships from Africa in the slave trade, black people were already here before that. But white people and others purged black tribes and pushed black people out of these tribes. And that's not pseudoscience. That's a fact, not an opinion. Hell, black Americans today are literally pulling up paperwork. They are suing people and they are winning these cases. People are literally doing their genealogy and connecting their ancestry back to native tribes in America, and they're winning cases. So that literally means what I'm saying is true. You can go look it up. And this needs to be said because we have been taught lies about ourselves. We have been taught lies about America. We have been taught lies about Native Americans. When, yes, there were yellow and red looking natives. I'm not denying that at all. But there were lots and lots, and more so, Negro or black. But today, the history is only taught through the whiter, Hispanic, Latino looking natives. You know, the light brown, the super light skin, red esque natives that are closer to white people. When lots of them were just $5 Indians that colonized black tribes. Now, reason number three on why it's ridiculous that we are not the standard of what it means to be American is the fact that we are the biggest practitioners of Christianity, but white people are somehow, some way, the picture of God and Jesus Christ, which makes zero sense. The fact that most people in the world, but let's just talk America, the fact that we in America see and perceive the face of Jesus Christ as a white man is like ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The fact that they are the representation and the image of Christianity, even though these are the same people who started Jim Crow laws and the KKK less than 100 years ago. I don't even have to name all the shit that they've done in world history. In the US alone, in the United States of America alone, they're responsible for racial terrorism, slavery, millions of rape, abuse, terrorizing communities, wars, genocides of humans and animals, making them go extinct, breeding, castrating, and so many other things. Also, lying about how Jesus is white when the Bible literally says otherwise. But notice they are in 2026 the representation of what it means to be Christian. You look up Christianity, you look up Jesus Christ, you're going to see people that look like them. And we're all taught this in one way or another, whether you like it or not. We are all taught that Jesus looked like the same people who just did all the things that I named, not even just back in the day, less than 100 years ago. In 1926, these were the same people lynching people in the KKK. Those are the people that are the representation of the faith that runs America. But if we look at their history as people, they clearly should not be the representation because they have practiced the complete opposite. Reason number four is the fact that we are the only ones to build an ethnicity in the United States of America, but we are still not seen as American. This shows because if I go outside and I say, I am a black American, I am an American, period, most of the pushback will be, but you're still African, I'm confused, my roots are in Africa, I come from Africa, right? Okay, so are Jamaicans and Trinidadians and lots of Brazilians, which people don't talk about a lot. Most of the slaves went to Brazil, but notice you don't give that same energy to them because you respect their ethnic restart, you respect their delineation, you respect their start from scratch because they all started from scratch and built their ethnicity from the ground up, just like we did in this country, just like how they did in their countries, right? Also, notice how Hispanics like Puerto Ricans and Colombians and Cubans and Peruvians and Dominicans and many others are still ethnically white with Spain roots, meaning lots of Hispanics are technically white. Actually, all Hispanics are literally white. They all have Spain roots. Spain is in Europe. I know. Tough news to find out. Hispanic people are white. But notice how nobody does that to them because they respect their delineation, they respect their ethnic group, and they don't tell them who they are. Nobody tells them who they are. Nobody is going to question an Hispanic. Nobody is going to question a Hispanic person. Nobody's going to question a Caribbean. But notice how we get questioned and we're told we're not American. Now, yeah, this might be a country with a lot of immigrants, especially in states like New York. God fucking damn. California, Texas, Jersey, Florida. Um, but we as black Americans are not immigrants. We were brought here forcefully through the slave trade. Plus, we are already native to the United States already. So that means, one, the first example, we didn't come here, through slavery. We were literally kidnapped, abducted, and you can't forcefully bring someone to your home and say that they came over there. That's not how it works. No, we were brought here because an immigrant is someone who leaves voluntarily themselves and goes to another country. And even when the black natives came, this was not the United States of America yet. So there was no country to immigrate to because this was just land with tribes. It wasn't a country with government borders that you immigrate to. And then if you break the law, you're an immigrant. There was no United States, country before that. But back to the standard, aka white folks, who never ever get questioned or are told, but you're from Europe. Your roots are in Europe. You need to tap into your European roots. You're having an identity crisis. This is a joke because how are they the standard when they have not delineated? They have not had an ethnic restart. They are still their ethnicity being whatever European country or root that they came from. Just because they don't say it or acknowledge it, just because, they don't talk about their Europeanness doesn't change their ethnic background. Because white people in America really don't go by their ethnicity because they believe in the idea of whiteness and race and really, white superiority, which they attach to, especially when they got to America, which is why they call themselves white in the first place. And they believe the standard of American is white, so that's what they mean when they say they're American. So that resulted in them not talking about their ethnic background, but it doesn't change anything. And I'll give you a perfect example. I cannot believe or know that I'm a black American or African American, which we need to stop calling ourselves that anyway. um, I cannot say that I am, but I still am, no matter what I say. I can move to Africa. I can go to Nigeria, for example, and my kids can be somewhere. I could be in Australia. I could have kids, and they kids can have kids in Australia or Canada or wherever for 500 years plus 1,000 years. And I could call myself Canadian or Australian, but I'm still not. That's not how it works. That'll never change my ethnicity because I would still be a black American no matter what. Because your ethnic background doesn't change unless you delineate, unless you have an ethnic restart. And white people have not had an ethnic restart. They just call themselves white and white American, but they're still their ethnicity to this day. Even though they were also here before the US was a thing. I'm not denying that. They were clearly here before the United States was a thing. But even the ones that were here already, they were still bringing their European roots and all that to America or the 13 colonies. And then the people that came in the 1800s did the same thing, brought their European culture or whatever they are to the United States of America. And that's because they didn't have an ethnic restart, not because they were just here. They didn't have an ethnic restart. Understand? So that means a white person in America, a Jamaican, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Indian, an Asian, period, in America are all just nationalities living here and being born here. These are not ethnic groups because their ethnicity and identity is where their ancestors came from, where their parents came from, or not even where their parents came from, because they'll say, oh, my parents are from New York. Okay, but your ethnicity is not New York or America. And black Americans are an ethnic group who are descendants of those who were enslaved in the United States or 13 colonies at the time. And again, nobody can say that in this country but us. We are not the standard of America, though. Even though we're the only ethnicity to come from this country, there is no other ethnicity to come from the United States of America. Everyone is bringing their shit over here. Now, we're really foundational black Americans, which is another name for our identity. Just like African American is a name for an identity. It's still the same identity, just a different name. But FBA, aka Foundational Black American, is really the perfect term and the only term we need to go by from 2026 and now on, forever. because we have been so undermined for centuries. With the fact that we are the builders of this country, I already talked about it in the last video. Not even just that, but the fact that even if we weren't here for a long time, even if we pulled up at 16, 19 on the boats, only through slavery, we would still be FBA. Because countries are things that are built. And we did that, building a country also while building a new ethnicity. Unlike white people, aka the standard, they're still Irish and British and Italian, because they built their ethnicity in their homelands and they're still their own ethnic group. Even though they don't talk about it, even if they lost touch with it, it don't matter. You're still the same ethnicity. And I know I'm clearly explaining this, and some of you are purposefully still being a dumbass and acting like you don't know what I'm saying, and are purposefully trying to not get what I'm saying. You're still confused. You're still being an anti-black contrarian like most people, and you will still say something along the lines of, oh, you're not really American because you're really from Africa, even though white people's roots are from Europe. But again, notice how you still view them as Americans. I guarantee you still do. And how does that make any sense? Oh, wait, it doesn't. Because unlike us, whose identity was stripped and restarted, which is why, we delineated in the first place, we weren't African anymore, nor neither were we, the tribe that we were when the U.S. Wasn't a thing yet, and pre-Columbus and all that. Even when we were in the tribes, we were not neither of those things anymore. They bunched all of us in. They bunched the natives and the Africans that came through the slave trade on the ships and all that, and just paired them together and said, all of your slaves, give me your culture, all that shit is done. You are done, you are nothing. And that's when we started from scratch. Now, just because they don't celebrate their Europeanness, like St. Patrick's Day, which is the perfect example, it doesn't change the fact that they're not ethnically American. They're still Irish. And I'll give you a perfect correlation to why what I'm saying is true. It doesn't matter if I lose touch with Juneteenth. It could be 500 years and I could never tell my kids, and we could never pass down Juneteenth ever again. It still would not change the fact that I am a Black American and that I'm FBA and that I'm African American. It wouldn't change my ethnicity. Everyone in America is only American by paperwork and nationality. Everybody except us. Because Black Americans, aka FBA, are the only ethnicity to come from this country. But somehow, some way, we're still not the representation of what it means to be an American. And if you say you're American, you're still somehow African. Example number 5 of why it's stupid that we are not the standard of what it means to be an American is the fact that everyone, meaning the Africans, Caribbeans, Hispanics, Latinos, Asians, white people, all these people that I named, do not practice equality, especially towards us. They'll be equal to each other, every now and again, especially towards white people. All of these groups of people I named love white people, but they especially will not practice equality with us. But we still have things like the N-word pass and phrases like invited to the cookout, which shows that we practice equality, but somehow, some way, you're still not American. But isn't that one of the, the monikers and one of the American values, equality? We support literally everybody, period. Even when people invade our culture and literally straight up steal it, we still support because we're the most inviting people ever. Not in this country, in the world. In the world, there's no other ethnic group. There's no group in Asia. There's no group in Australia. There's no group in South Asia, East Asia, North Asia. There's nowhere. Africa, Canada, South America, Brazil, Venezuela. There's nowhere. The Caribbean, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. Nowhere. Nowhere. There's nobody ever who was more inviting than us. Because there is no phrase for anyone, There's no phrase to invite other races to your cultural, event. There's no N-word pass. Nobody invites other people to their culture. Nobody gives out N-word passes, which is literally us allowing you to say a slur that was used to enslave us. No one can show me anyone that supports their own people, because we support our own people, while supporting immigrants in their own country that they built, while supporting people who aren't their race, because we support white people. We have supported white people our whole lives. Media, businesses, superheroes, games, video games, shows. We have supported white people our whole lives. Asians, we support Asians too, and support their own people in their racial group at the same time. There's no group. I'll say that again. There is no group, period, in the world who supports themselves, because Black Americans support Black Americans. We support immigrants in their own country. We literally support and will fight for immigrants in our own country. We fight for Hispanics, especially. We fight for white immigrants. We fight for Asian immigrants. We fight for Jamaican, Haitian. So that's boom. People who aren't our race. We fight for Asians. We fight for white people. We will shuck and jive. And we will support people in our own racial group, being Jamaicans, Haitians, Trinidadians, you know, Africans. We literally support everybody. No one has ever done that but us. Nobody. Nobody you can name has done all those four things at the same time. Now, look, don't get me misconstrued at all. I don't like at all that we do it. And it's something that I am completely against, because I think we need to more than ever focus on ourselves and extremely practice gatekeeping to the absolute extreme. But regardless, us not gatekeeping is showing you that we, more than anybody, actually practice equality. We see people as the same because we don't feel superior to others. We will share our culture, unlike the standard being white people who do not. They do not share culture when it comes to even their own. The Irish and the Italians, if you look up history with white people, that shows you that they um, don't practice equality even within their own people. But notice how we're not the standard and they are. Example number 6 of why it's stupid that we are not the standard of what it means to be an American is the fact that we are the only people to practice American values. Patriotism. We have fought in every single war while being segregated in those same war units. We literally fought for a country that was in the past or even literally at the time enslaving us. Like the Civil War, for example, we literally were enslaved and still were fighting in wars. And every war before that. We have been more patriotic than anybody in this country, especially the standard being white people. And they just show recently why they are not the patriots. January 6th shows exactly why them being viewed as patriotic is fucking ridiculous. We have never done no shit like that. But because white people were upset, they invaded the Capitol. Just because white privilege. If we would have invaded the Capitol, niggas would have got shot. They are the standard of patriotism, but these are the same folks who created things like COINTELPRO to infiltrate our civil rights movements. They'll take out and have flat out assassinated our American citizens like MLK when we have no history of doing stuff like that. But notice who gets viewed as patriotic and the ones who fight for this country, and they have American patriotism. Black Americans built the wealthiest country. The government fought in all the wars, from the revolutionary all the way to the one in Iraq and Afghanistan. We fought for our rights as people. We fought for our humanity while fighting for others. Immigration Nationality Act. We did all this at the same time while dealing with Jim Crow, mass imprisonment, gatekeeping, microaggressions, redlining, black codes, and everything in between. All of this, and still today, most of us are middle class. Is that not the most patriotic thing you've ever heard? That doesn't sound like a patriot to you? The country was literally about to be split into two because this country wanted to fight to the death to keep slavery alive. But notice how the same people that fought in these wars, the same presidents and generals and all that, these people have statues and monuments and bridges and buildings and streets and murals named after them. When these people who were slave owners and fought for slavery to be alive, enslaving the American citizens, notice these folks literally went against America, but they're still celebrated today. And that's because the morality has never been about this country when it comes to white people, aka the standard. That's the only reason why I'm talking about them, because they're the standard of what it means to be an American, right? This country, they don't give a fuck about this country. It has never been about this country. It has been about white superiority. That's who the presidents were. They were white supremacists. And this is why today America will forever ride with people like Charlie Kirk and, Trump and Elon Musk, because they advocate for white supremacy more extremely than the Democrats. Because don't get me confused, Democrats and liberals and all them niggas, they're all white supremacists too. Well, the white ones, and the ones who aren't white, they align with them. The government in general, both sides, Democrat, Republican, both enabled slavery and fought to keep it alive, because this is not about America. It's never been about America. This has been about white superiority when it comes to them, aka the standard. These people have literally waged war on America. Civil War was in America. It wasn't about American citizens. It was about fighting to keep slavery alive, meaning these folks have waged war on America, especially the Confederacy. These niggas were literal terrorists, or even by the American definition when it comes to events like 9/11. They were enslaving and torturing and doing all the stuff that America would consider terrorism to black people. And these same folks, the Union and the Confederacy, the North and the South, the Democrats and the Republicans, all of these folks literally were terrorists to America. They were literally terrorists in America. We have dealt with racial terrorism for years. But notice who gets viewed as a patriot, who gets associated with patriotism. If you look up American patriot, you're going to see a white person. And I don't understand how. They literally have done the complete opposite of patriotism, because their fight has not been about this country. Their fight is about white supremacy, and that has nothing to do with America or American values. Equality is one of the biggest lies America claims to stand on, and it shows, because we were the first terrorist attack, speaking of terrorism, in the United States. I know you're taught that 9/11, that's the biggest terrorist attack and the only one, but no. It's only that way because white people who control the education system, control the media and the narrative around everything, they don't call the 1921 Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre terrorism, when that's exactly what it was. And they didn't tell it that way as terrorism, because this country isn't about America in the first place, because that's what it was. It was terrorism on its American citizens. The standard, aka white people, have never cared about equality. They care about making themselves look good at all costs, aka white superiority, the system of white supremacy that controls this entire country, which is based off of white dominance and it being justified at all cost. And calling Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I don't even have to use slavery, but what was going on at the time, Jim Crow, massacres, terrorism, hanging people, that would defeat the status quo. That would defeat white superiority and white purity and the narrative of them being the real Americans and real patriots, because that's not patriotism. That's not equality and liberty and justice for all. That's a lie, because clearly the standard is not practicing what they're preaching. And this whole equality shit they claim to live by is stupid, because you can't claim this is a country of equality and not be. It's all equal or it's not, period. You can't pick and choose what's equal and what's not. And that's what this country does. It picks and chooses. And the standard, aka white people, don't have to go by that moniker. They don't have to say this is a land of equality, but they do. But they're lying at the same time, and it needs to be called out because we are the only ones that kept equality across the board. We're the only ones that have done that, but we are not the representation of what it means to be an American and American values. And it makes no sense. Land of the free, land of opportunity, another lie. Land of the free really just means land of white people's freedom to do everything they fucking want. Home of the brave. Yeah, until you're brave enough to go against the system of white supremacy, then you end up like, MLK, Ali, you know, Black Panther Party, Malcolm X, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or today with athletes like Colin Kaepernick. And these are just athletes, Kyrie Irving, Angel Reese. While Elon Musk in, what was it, 2025, 2024, can literally throw up Nazi salutes with no consequences. And I'm only talking athletics. I can name many avenues, but I'm literally just talking about athletics. Today, modern times, we're told this is the home of the brave. You're supposed to be a brave American. But that standard only is a thing with white people. We don't get that privilege of being brave. Because as soon as we get brave, a Colin Kaepernick happens. They do not practice what they preach. And they will say and preach the false reality of everyone has a fair chance as long as you work hard. This is the American dream. You can make it with the opportunities that you are given. But it's clearly not the case. And I'm not saying that black people can't do anything, you can't succeed. That's not what I'm saying. Because we succeed despite the barriers that are put up. But that's the whole point. The barriers are put up. They shouldn't be put up because this is the land of opportunity and freedom and land of the free. It's clearly not, because we clearly deal with more barriers than anyone does. And we still succeed. Like I said, we're still middle class mostly. And we shouldn't be because of what we have dealt with, but we still persevere. And that's because the resilience in us, not because anybody gave us anything, because we are fighters. That's in our history. So the whole land of opportunity thing is clearly false. Because when we do succeed, we're told that we're DEI, an industry plant, it's rigged, you get preferential treatment, we're not deserving of said position. Anytime we get anything, we're not deserving of it. Oh, handout. I thought this was the land of the free and land of opportunity. As soon as black people take an opportunity, succeed, it's DEI. While the standard, aka white people, they can be mediocre, downright just terrible human beings, or whether it's a job, they can downright not be good at anything. They can be terrible people and they will be fine. They will have no criticism, or even if they do have criticism, it'll be told in lowercase. Unlike us, where our criticism is always in uppercase, there's no overseeing. They don't have to deal with policing and constant sabotaging. And we have to have absolutely perfect credentials to even be looked at. We only have one chance, mostly two, maybe three if you are really, really an exceptional Negro. Or they can have 10 errors and mistakes and bad behavior and so many allegations and all this stuff, and they'll be perfectly fine. They might get canceled on Twitter. People will talk about them on Twitter, but nothing really happens. There's no real consequences. Hell, white folks don't even have a name for their problematic people. Unlike us, we have Coon, Uncle Tom, Oreo, Whitewashed, and many, many others. Sambo. We have so many names for our problematic people. We will call out our own people, not even just the system and everybody else. We will call out our own people. That right there is the most American thing you can ever do. And no other ethnic group, period, none in Asia, Hispanic, Latino, countries and cultures, African, Caribbean, white, nobody has that. We, more than anyone, will criticize problematic behavior. It don't matter who it is. Our men, our women, we will call out our own people. We make it clear that being problematic isn't cool. It should not be tolerated. While the standard, aka white people, they don't do that. They actually celebrate. They defend bad behavior. Perfect example. We all know when a school shooting happens from them, it is always defended. It's mental health, it's backstory, his childhood, but you have to understand he was abused. That's how it always goes. Or they'll turn anti-black racists like Hulk Hogan and Charlie Kirk into legends and moguls and heroes. We have always stood up for what's right because we know that we need to get rid of snitches and the master tellers, master lovers, white supremacists, people that align with them. We understand more than anybody. That is a part of our culture. We call out people. We call out what the fuck is wrong with society. We fight for civil rights. We will say when people are being done wrong. And we will even call out when we are doing our own people wrong. While they call their slave owner presidents patriots, and they will call the Confederate flag heritage. The national anthem, being one nation under God, is a lie. And we know this because they didn't enslave us based on if we believed in God or not. That wasn't the standard. The standard of slavery and Jim Crow and the crack era and mass imprisonment being the most hate crimed and exonerated today, all of that is not based on do we believe in God or not. It's not based on religion and one nation under God. We are all one people under God. That's not what this country has treated us based off of. Because whether you believe in God or not as a black person, you get treated the same way. You get treated like a nigga, which that debunks the whole one nation under God lie. Because if that was the case, that means the hate crimes should be committed the most against people who don't believe in God. They should be more on the religion, religious based, right? No, they're racially based. We are the most hate crimed people. We are the most exonerated people. The most people who get falsely accused should be based on religion, right? Like people who I guess don't believe in God. That should be the most exonerated people and not black people. You get what I'm saying? And a huge majority of white people, aka the standard, only praise Jesus Christ because he's white. This isn't about one nation under God. No, it's not about God. Faith is second. They practice that second. First is white supremacy. They praise white Jesus. They love it because it shows that we are God and every position that we're in, it's rightfully so because we are God. The Pledge of Allegiance with liberty and justice for all is false. Because if that was the case, again, the hate crimes and the exonerations and the false narratives and the stereotyping about us, it will be way different. It would not be disproportionate. It would not have these humongous gaps. You know, we get falsely accused, hate crime, stereotyped, false narratives, and lies told about us more than any other group, period, in the world. But all this exists because all these American values are not even lived by the people who talk about them the most, the people who made themselves the representation of American values, being white folks. Example number 7 is the fact that white people are the standard of beauty when literally everybody wants to be us. Let's be 100% honest. The beauty standard of whiteness is designed to say that white people are better and the best versions of humans. It is not just said and implied that, oh, white people are beautiful and they look good. No, that's not what beauty standards are about, and we all know that. It's not just about, oh, white people said that they're attractive and I'm white and this person is white, so of course I'm going to be biased. It's not about racial bias. It's deeper than that. Because I always say, I understand racial bias. Obviously, white people are going to be biased to their own people, just like I'm going to be biased to my own. But we know that's not how these folks operate, and they operate in deceit. They operate in doing stuff and acting like they're not doing it. Microaggressive, passive aggressive behavior. They have always felt and they have always practiced that whiteness, white people, or even the proximity to it equals better. And then everything under it is ugly and less than, especially when it comes to black people. And the fact that they are the standard of beauty is a fucking joke, bro. It really, really is. You cannot find a single country in the world. When I say in the world, I mean places like Nigeria, Somalia, South Sudan, Africa, period, Korea, the Philippines, India, Asia, period, Brazil, Venezuela, South America, period. Canada, Puerto Rico, North America, period. Australia, everywhere in the world, period. I bet even in Antarctica. There is nowhere, there's nowhere in the world where you cannot find at least one person in every single nation that does not indulge in Black American culture or inventions. All the countries I named, you can go a day without seeing their culture in every single nation in the world. You cannot go a day without seeing our inventions and our culture in every single nation in the world. Everywhere you go, you see, hear, even smell our culture every single day. Everywhere you go, in every single continent, every single country, every single state, and every single city, everyone chooses our culture. Everyone talks like us, especially in America. And no, I'm not just talking about the N word, saying nigga and yo gang. That's no. I'm not talking about stereotypes and cursing and being ignorant. I'm talking about the way we word things and use certain words. Perfect example, saying boughta instead of about to, saying gotta instead of got to, saying you gone, saying finna, saying I ain't finna lie, I ain't gonna lie, and many more phrases and ways of speaking that comes from us that everyone is colonizing and straight up stealing and erasing, which is so disrespectful. Cultural appropriation is not just about hip hop and fashion, it's way deeper than that. It's literally taking our entire way of walking, talking, posing, dressing, emoting, um, captioning things on TikTok and commenting, abbreviating every single detail about us. Everybody copies, especially in this country. It is absolutely ridiculous the amount of culture vultures that are in fucking America. It is ridiculous. Whether we want to talk the women who do their edges and wearing vibrant nails with the rhinestones on them and the long nails and the wigs and the bust downs and the mimicking the way black women do their hairs. Oh my god, don't get me started on the hairstyles that are stolen. The braids and the locks and the fades that men of all ethnic groups do. The whole barbershop culture came from us. Whether we want to talk about the gold chains with the earrings to match, getting lineups wearing hoodies and joggers and baggy clothes and cargo pants and sports jerseys and sportswear period, lining up your beard, wearing Jordans, wearing sneakers period, wearing hats and bucket hats and fitted caps and snapbacks and all the types of ways that we wear hats, whether it's backwards or sideways. The way we joke around our comedy that literally carries social media. Social media would not be popping without us. If we did not exist anymore, social media would be fucking dead. The way we do literally everything, so many people. And when I say people, I'm talking about you Africans, I'm talking about you Caribbeans, I'm talking about you Hispanics, I'm talking about you Latinos, I'm talking about you Asians, and I'm talking about you white people. All of y'all steal our shit every single fucking day, and y'all would be literally nothing without us. A majority of people in America would be absolutely nothing when it comes to their interests, their personality without us. Because unlike us who were born into this shit, y'all had to discover culture. Y'all had to discover y'all way of being through a TV, through music, through a phone, through an app, through people that you watch, or your little two black friends that you just hold on to because they enable you stealing the culture and they give you the culture and you steal it with disrespect and you hold on to these black friends. You hold on to the two black friends that you say what's up to at work and school because they're the people that you call on when you get called out for appropriating black American culture every day. Everyone naturally gravitates towards us everywhere in the world. Even white people, aka the standard. And if we're being honest, they do it more than anybody. Then it's the Hispanics, then it's the Asians, then it's the Africans and the Caribbeans. But back to white people, because even they do not fuck with the idea of whiteness. Nobody comes out racist and nobody comes out with the idea of white supremacy. All the little white kids, pay attention to them, and you look at who they admire, who they mimic, who they study, who they copy, it is usually black Americans. Most of them want to be black. They look at their black American classmates, look at their black American friends for personality and just identity in general, for confidence, for lingo, for music, for interest, haircuts and hairstyles. But then eventually their parents tell them to stop being a nigga, stop being similar to black people, stop being like a black person. And they lie to them in implementing white supremacist talking points and mindsets and narratives. So then they start lying to them and telling them that black Americans and our culture is inferior, less than. It's about crime, being sexually deviant, drill rap, murder, and that we are just violent and that they are actually better than us and that they need to get it together. And that's when the whole white supremacist, mindset starts. That's how it always goes. And this isn't just white people either, because do not get me misconstrued. I'm only talking about them because they're the standard in this country of what it means to be an American, even though it's a fucking joke. And I'm explaining why it's a joke. But don't think I'm just talking about them, because I'm also talking about you. Asians, Africans, Caribbeans, Hispanics, Latinos, all the little kids, all of them. If you pay attention, they all watch, listen to, and indulge in black American culture 24/7, whether you want to admit it, whether they want to admit it, or whether I want to admit it or not. Or whether they even know or realize that they're doing it or not. And it's only becoming more of a thing now because Gen A kids are and will be the most culture vulture generation we have ever seen. Because our generation, being Gen Z, was when our culture really got like popping and mainstream, and it became something that was just outside of us, in our communities and our households. Now we're in the erasure phase where all the kids coming up act black, talk black, pose black, walk black, do everything that is from us. But they will say that it came from K-pop. They'll say it came from Billie Eilish. They'll say it came from Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner and Timothy Chalamet and Justin Bieber and Eminem and Kai Cenat and Burna Boy and Nicki Minaj and Tyla, and credit it to everyone else who isn't black American. And I talked about the young people for a reason, because the only reason, and I mean the only reason, anyone who isn't black American and is older isn't acting like a black American anymore, because the older ones do it too. Millennials do it all the time. There's hella culture vultures in every age group, especially when it comes to really like age 6 all the way to like 40. Culture vultures everywhere, but it's especially the youth. But again, the older people only aren't doing it anymore, or aren't doing it, period, is because they got taught by their family that black people are inferior, we're childish, we're immature, our culture is inferior. So they have to force themselves to not be us. Because if they weren't programmed, they would all be Timu, great value, non-seasoned versions of us. And this is my point, right? Nobody, nobody, no Keith Sweat, nobody naturally gravitates to white people most of the time. Anyone who does only does because you learn that you need to survive in this country. So you kind of have to choose. Do I align with white people? Do I assimilate with their standards and what they want? Or do I want to be a part of the oppressed class of society that has to deal with sabotaging and policing and, the stuff that we deal with? Especially if you're black empowered, you know exactly what life comes with. So you kind of have to make that choice, because those are most of the time who have the resources and the power and the whole status system and the representation of purity, beauty, God, and like family values in America. Nobody naturally talks white. Nobody naturally assimilates to white people and white culture, whatever the fuck that is. Nobody naturally dates interracially with white people. You only do it because you learn that white people hold the capital, the power, and the status quo. This applies to everybody, everyone who isn't white. This applies to Africans, Caribbeans, Hispanics, Asians, all those folks deep down, especially immigrants, oh my God, y'all fucking pedestalize white people. It is like, it's sickening. It's sickening. All of y'all assimilate to white people, have sex with, marry, and have children with. Y'all only do that because they hold the power. And you want to go higher in the racial hierarchy, socially, politically, economically, or you're just, you suffer from low self esteem because of white beauty standards and just white standards in America. And you want to feel better internally because you feel that proximity to them makes you better as a human being. Of course, no one's going to say that. Nobody's going to admit that in America. Nobody's going to get up on a podium on a mainstream platform and just admit that. I don't even think half of the people that do it even realize it. Nobody naturally loves whiteness. It is never a choice. It is forced on you since you were a kid. So then you learn to love whiteness. And not even really just whiteness, you just love what's associated with them, being the status quo, and the narratives, and the idea, the concept of white people, and the feeling of achieving the American dream and being with the almighty white folks. Because it's been forced on you since you were a kid. And this is why the most common relationship is ironically Asians and white people, because Asians are the second most anti-black people behind white people. Honestly, they're like tied with Hispanics. Like Hispanics and Asians, I feel like they're right there, like under white people. Then there's the Africans and Caribbeans, and then there's us. Everyone naturally gravitates towards us. Society says it, the media says it, everybody gravitates towards us. You go across the country, go across a different continent, and you will see our culture everywhere you go. And no, I'm not just talking about hip hop and fashion. Get that out of your head. It's not just fashion and hip hop, it is everything we do. Everything. Go look at the little kids and teenagers and babies and see who they watch, who they focus on, who they speak like, who they dress like, who they model themselves after, and most of the time it's us. But notice who's the representation of a true American? It's not us. And that makes no sense. And the last example of us being the true Americans is the fact that we have been here so long. We have built a culture here so long. We have been a people with an identity so long that our identity has existed longer than some of the most known countries in the world have even existed. It is hilarious knowing how we are always perceived as Africans, not even just Africans, but less than Africans, bootleg Africans, people who need to get into touch with their roots because they don't really know where they're from. You say, I'm from America, and they say, God, this guy's delusional. Man, he doesn't know where he's from. I feel so bad for him. Now, notice 1775 is when America became a thing, and we were here. I already talked about it multiple times already. Now, I'm about to name some countries that did not exist yet in 1775, okay? Lots of these nations that I'm about to name weren't a thing till the 1800s and sometimes even the 1900s. Now, again, notice how we don't get our respect. We aren't American, don't know our roots, and don't know where we come from, unlike everybody else, right? We're still African, right? But notice countries like, let's go down the list: Haiti, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Greece, Germany, Turkey, Italy, Iraq, Lebanon, Nigeria, India, Israel, Vietnam, Kenya. All of these countries did not, I repeat, did not, I repeat, did not exist in 1770 fucking 5. But notice all of their delineations, meaning their ethnic restarts, meaning they are not tied to who they were before, because they were a people before, but they weren't an identity yet because they were something else before. Just like how We were African before. We're always tied to Africa, right? All of these countries that I just named, they became a new nation. They built a nation from scratch. They built an identity. They built an ethnicity from scratch, right? They had an ethnogenesis, right? All the countries I named, all of their identities are respected. Their culture is not tied to anything else. They get to be themselves. They get to be their identity and they get to stand on that. When we were in America before all of those countries that I just named were even a thing. They are never, ever, 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 ever told they need to go back to the roots, that they're not whatever they are now because they're really who they were before. No matter how long time goes by, like how y'all tell us, like how people tell us, and like how we tell ourselves that we are just always African. No matter what the fuck happens, no matter how long it is, even though you are 600 thousands and 150 million years away from being African, you are still African no matter what. We were called Negroes, freedmen, Afro American, African American. That's like 4 identifiers that we were called before even some of these countries were even a thing. But notice how we're told that we aren't American, that we are still bootleg Africans when lots of these countries weren't even a thing. How the fuck does that make sense? You can't make sense of that. You literally can't. There is no sense in that. It makes zero sense. And this is the BS and indoctrination that we have to deal with every day, bro. We already deal with so much stuff. This is something that we have to deal with. Cultural erasure. Being told that you are nothing, you get your culture is nothing, your culture is everybody's, your culture is universal, and actually your whole identity is universal because you aren't even a black American anyway, because you're just a bootleg, knockoff, great value, less than African. When we have no African parents, my parents are not African, my grandparents are not African, my great grandparents aren't African. We have ancestors on ancestors on ancestors, greats on greats on greats on greats, who are literally in America before y'all even existed as a lineage. But I'm supposed to always tie myself to Africa, even though my family and my ancestors and my great great greats and my grandparents and my parents were literally in America again before y'all even existed. And let's talk Africa specifically, because this is where it really gets absolutely ridiculous. And this shows you, like, I don't know how this has went on for this long. Like, I get it because I didn't used to have this mindset that I have now. I used to be a Pan-Africanist, so I get it. But how are we tied to Africa? But we were in America before Nigerians even became Nigerians. Zimbabwe, Eritrea, South Sudan, Mali, and many, many African nations were even their own. Nobody can tell us in Africa where we're from. Nobody can ever do that. Every person who is told you are not American, you are African, go back to your country. That's what white people love saying. Go back to your country. Where am I going to go? Can you tell me? Because you know what's funny about white people who say that? They know exactly where they're from. They can go to Britain and Ireland and all whatever the fuck, Germany and Poland. They know exactly where they're from because they're still tied to that identity. You notice how that works? We are not tied to the identity because we restarted. We had an ethnic restart, aka ethnogenesis. We delineated. We started from scratch. But I still have to tap into my African roots. When I can tell you that my parents are from Chicago, Illinois. My grandparents are from Chicago, Illinois. My great grandparents are from the South. They're from Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. But I'm supposed to tap into my African roots when the roots didn't even exist. And it really gets annoying, especially when, it's always told that West African slaves were taken from West Africa, and they're really talking about Nigeria, but Nigeria wasn't a thing until the 1900s. That means in 1900, we were in America, black people. Nigeria did not exist. So how are we going to tap into roots that do not exist? The fact that where I stay being Georgia, shout out to anybody in Georgia that watches me. Georgia became a state in, I believe, 1788. I might be wrong, around there. That means you could have great on 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 great grandparents all the way back to 1788 when Georgia became a thing, but you are still told that you are West African, you are Nigerian, you have lost your roots. You need to tap into your roots when your roots existed 200 years after Georgia was a thing. I'm told I need to tap into my African origins and African roots, and that I don't know where I'm from. When we were here in this country building the country from the ground up, and we were here before the country was a country. And then when we built the country, the place that I'm supposed to tap into, being Africa, especially West Africa and especially Nigeria, is the same place that I'm supposed to tap into. But that same place didn't exist until 200 years after the country that we built and have been here for and been here at every stage for even existed. Does that make any sense? I don't think so. It doesn't make any sense at all.